first and then you go.
Okay.
Thank you. So it may shock you that I am not a student of Canterbury Girls Secondary College. My work is at the intersection of parks, people and technology, and attending the Healthy Parks, Healthy People Congress has been an incredibly enriching experience. So thank you to the organisers for inviting me to speak at this Congress, and thank you in particular to the people at Parks Victoria who have been so helpful and supportive. A few years ago I was lucky enough to take a route to work that led me through some of Melbourne's best parks and gardens, in particular the Royal Botanic Gardens. Walking through this extraordinary landscape reminded me of what a magical experience visiting a park can be, or what a magical experience it was when I was a kid. And it prompted me to create a game that was reflective of that experience. In 2009, after many months of planning and development, the Hidden Park was launched for Apple's iPhone. Initially designed just for Melbourne's Royal Botanic Gardens, it quickly expanded to other parks around the world and has recently passed 170 parks globally, from Kensington Gardens in London to Ueno Park in Tokyo to Central Park in New York. In some instances, the game has been set up by park authorities, sometimes by local parents, and in the case of Wattle Park, it has been set up thanks to the enthusiasm of teachers and students at Canterbury Girls Secondary College. The game's premise is simple. It gets young kids off the couch and into parks by tempting them with one of their favourite activities, computer games. The game begins with a phone call from the leader of the Magical Wildlife Protection Agency. The kids are challenged to find the magical creatures living in their park and to rescue them from property developers. They must follow an interactive map, solve riddles, beat characters at games, and take photos at specific points in the park. Magical creatures appear in the photos, sometimes right next to the player, and families leave the park with a wonderfully weird album of their adventure. When I first sought funding for this project, I was queried extensively on the structure of this new form of gaming. I remember one criticism vividly. An expert in gaming asked me what happened in between the phone calls, in between the games, in between the photo points. And I replied, somewhat naively, that's the beauty of this game. It's just a walk in the park. I was quickly rebuffed. Kids these days, I was informed, are digital natives. They require constant stimulation, constant input, constant distraction. They would find my game boring. I wish I had heard Richard Louv before that day. I wish I could have replied as confidently as I can today. For the first time I played the Hidden Park with my young nephew, we were hunting fairies. And he kept asking, do you think they're over there, Uncle Jamo? And I said, no, stick to the map. You can see they're further down the path. And a microsecond later he said, do you think they're over there, Uncle Jamo? And I said, no, we're not there yet, Gus. And finally he spotted a magnificent tree with weeping branches and said determinedly, that's where they are. And so we took off for the tree and crouched in the magical space under the canopy, waiting for the fairies to emerge. After a while, I suddenly realised that I had designed the game and knew for a fact that the fairies came out further down the path. So to prompt my nephew away, I asked, do you really think this is where the fairies live, Gus? And he but brusquely replied, of course they do. And they'd come out if you stopped talking, Uncle Jamo. I've been in New York for the past year, constantly talking. We have put significant research and development into technology that will fill in the gaps in our game, to keep kids constantly plugged in and constantly distracted. But the Healthy Parks, Healthy People Congress has forcefully reminded me of the primacy of our original aim, simply to place people in parks, to immerse children in nature. We will continue to develop technology that encourages people to visit parks and engage with them in new and interactive ways. But as a game designer, it is now clear to me that I do not need to worry about the gaps, and I do not need to fill the silence. In fact, as my nephew so pointedly put it, there are times when Uncle Jamo needs to be quiet and let the magic happen. Thank you.